Good afternoon, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's having a good day, enjoying life, living life, loving life. And some of you may know I've been spending some time on YouTube here lately on Paul Unslaved's channel. We get on there through StreamYard and we go over a lot of different topics and generally people that come in and say stupid things, and we kind of help hold that down. And it looks kind of bad sometimes, but I'm hoping people will realize that Jesus turned the tables over for a reason. And I see Paul's got this setup that he's doing, and he's doing an awesome job. And today we went over various different topics like usual, but one of the things that we have fun with on there is some very disingenuous, sarcastic realities, is what I like to call them. I told him the other day, sometimes he's so disingenuous that he's authentic. People can't see him as any other way as being authentic because of the disingenuity that he puts. And what he's doing is comparing that disingenuousness with the way the system works. If people can't see how disingenuous that system really is, we need to help them out. And so one of the things that he does is he does these little skit-like things off the cuff, things of sarcasm. And he's got this picture of a flag that says Christopher on it. So I wanted to go over that real quick because I mentioned it on his YouTube, that we have to see that there's two, that's not a what you classify as a name unless you realize how it's constructed. You can determine the use of it as a name, but the actual foundation and construction of Christopher is not, again, it's not behave, it's behave. It is not Christ, as in Christen, it's Christ. By itself, it's Christ, not Christ. So you separate Christ from the rest of it and you get Opher, O-P-H-E-R. So when you contract them, combine them together and contract two things into one, it changes a lot of things. It changes the pronunciation for sure. So when we separate them and we pronounce them the way they are in their singular elements and find out those roots, and again, Christ itself comes from the scriptures. So therefore, if you want to combine them, they generally are going to be like kind. It's when we get into Latin, German, French, Greek, and all this other stuff to form the English language that we use the connection between Latin and French and parts of words that are then contracted to form a new modern era term. Whereas if we go back to the origins, Christ Opher in scripture, and Opher is one of the two cloven hoof animals that grow antlers, known as fawns, deer, ophers. And the ophers themselves are the young deer, fallow. They're described in different ways, but today we modernize them all as deer. In that, the opher has the masculine and feminine. So in the opher, it subcategorizes it as the masculine and feminine as heart and hind. Now, heart is, I believe, heart is the male and hind is the female. And so when we look at the Christ Opher and the aspect that the Opher is the young of the deer that they eat, and when they want to eat these deer, which is known as the clean meat in the scriptures, they have to go out and catch them. They have to chase them. And so when we hear this term to receive equity, you must first seek equity or come with equity. In order to receive equity, you must come with equity. So if you want equity, you must seek equity. So if you want the meat that's clean, you must seek it. So you chase it, and you chase it per the language that's written in your heart. Christ in Eucharist, the flesh and blood of the Christ in you. So the Christ in you is the Spirit. So it can be good or bad. So today we have the modern term purchase. Just like it says it's Christopher and purchase. When you break them down, it's Christ, offer, and purchase. So think about this stuff and have fun with it. Realize that's all it is. What purchase do you have being a Christ, offer, heart and hind of a Christ? You are the masculine and feminine in one as a Christ, and you walk per your chase, per your path, per your needs, not the needs of everybody else. Have a good day. Remember, folks, if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be doing this. God bless. Bye.
So we see where am I at here? Right. There we go. So as we see, and I dropped a note on it in the chat section, Christ, as it's pronounced correctly, means the anointed, simply means anointed. And then Ophir being a young male deer in this case is a reference to the young child, the young human child. We are the anointed children. That's basically what it's saying, anointed children. So what do we got on the panel? What are you thinking so far? Does that give you a little bit more insight in how the supposed names that we're doing are constructed? If you break down those multiple syllable words that you see before you into their actual subset words, you find a big difference in what's in actuality. What do you guys think? There you go.
Can you keep going? I don't know much about the topic, but it is fascinating.
Okay, and that's basically what I keep trying to convince everybody when you see things before you. If you see a singular word in there, break it down and find out what they've added to it, because this is what contract means in tearing down the words. You're contracting down what doesn't belong there to its original source. So defendant, you take off the prefix and the suffix and you end up with offend, which is the original root word. And oftentimes you'll find that those nouns that are written out like that are in fact an origin of source of a verb or something else. And they only create the noun to describe it. Does that make sense?
So in your use of the word fend, its root meaning being?
It comes from the origin. It's a French origin. It means to fence. To fence. So it's sword play. So it's a verb. And it's an action used in other courses of life. To fend for oneself means to fight one's own battles. So when you're defended, the ability to fight, for you to fight your own battle, is taken away. And then it'd be ANT, the suffix that's placed on the end, shows that it's a transition from that verb to a noun. So it's an action upon the original root to change the context as its use. And so in the use, that to defend means to take away somebody's ability. Does that make sense?
Sure. And so I'm guessing offend being the inverse derived from that root, or
Correct. You take the OF and it's literally of fending. So they're telling you the offense is an act of war, and then the defense is an act of putting off the war.
cool.
I have a question.
Sure.
A little bit of David Windmiller and Russell J. Gould's language. The DE means no from what they say. So kind of trying to follow this. Do you have any insight on that?
Well, yeah. Have you ever heard of the syntax, parse syntax grammar, as they call it? Did you ever hear about that before 1991?
No.
Exactly. It's a created language that is not concise English. It may be based on concise English with a mathematical equation, but it is not the concise English that the regular general population uses for their communications.
Okay. I was just curious because I wanted to get I'm looking at getting a concise English handbook myself.
Yeah, and that's what I suggest. Everybody go back to the roots. Instead of trying to create your own, which is fine because I've done myself. I created my own text. But again, there's no vocal language for it. So if you're to hear somebody sit up there in court and read off one of their documents from Russell J. Gould, people wouldn't be able to comprehend it. And that's the point of language, is for people to be able to comprehend it as it's finite communication. When they come out with that creative parse syntax grammar, now you have to put a mathematical equation to it rather than the equation of the pronunciation and the intent of the word.
Yes.
It varies everything. It's just another way of morphing things. And again, they did it for their own purpose. So the whole thing here in this language that I'm talking about with the origins are within yourself. The slavery that you inherently put upon yourself is to that communication. You're learning the English language through their public education system, and that's taking away from the direct natural and spiritual way that we're supposed to communicate with the world. So we've entered into this beast system, and the scripture tells us to come out of her. So in coming out of her, I'm hoping I've got this set right, because I'm going to show this and see if this works.
Okay.
Yeah, while you're loading that, I was going to say,
Mushroom
I
hunting.
had heard it said that
And
English is sort of
if you saw a couple posts
the word
back,
that comes
I
from it is
had
sort of like a bastard
some
language, a crude derivation, smorgasbord maybe of other languages.
Well, yeah, and that's already what the English language is. They just took multiple languages and created the English language. And again, originally Latin was in all uppercase, and now they put it all lowercase in modern times. And in the days of old, English was all lowercase. And the fanciful art that you saw at the beginning of a paragraph or the beginning of a page, where you saw that quote capital letter, that wasn't a capital letter. That was just each individual started to enhance their scripts by just artistically drawing a representation of the letter that started off the page. And that's how capitalization came to be for the English language. It didn't start out as capitalization. It started out as the artwork of each penman.
We the people.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting, the script for the Declaration of Independence. I think Jefferson penned it. It was the L's or the S's that have already evolved. We've already evolved away from. Right.
Yeah, because if you remember, a lot of times you would see an S and it looked more like the shape of an F with a cross on it, an intersected line. So and same with what was it? V. They've used V to express other letters as well. So I got this little thing here. Coming out of her means getting back into her as we call her, our maternal instincts in nature. In nature. Okay, so I'm out here mushroom hunting, and
then
if you saw a couple posts back,
you'll
I
also
had
see, I don't know if it
some
relates,
white
but
flowers that I found. Can you guys hear the thing on the
And
foreground?
I am
in Auburn,
no,
Maine.
go ahead. Sorry,
And this is what I found today while I'm mushroom hunting.
but I don't
And
see
if we
it or
look
hear anything.
real close, you see those same kind of white flowers that are peeking up. They're going to peek up out of some of this stuff up out of the way here, so real gently, so we can show you something else here.
Yeah, so I
look
still
at
don't see or hear anything, but I was going to say, I don't know if it relates, but
Look at that.
I know that when they inscribe into stone, you know, it's very difficult to do curves, so they will
Right.
alter certain fonts in order to allow for straight lines as distinct from those much more difficult to carve into stone curved etchings.
Exactly, and that's why we see throughout the passing of time, when they first created the actual first stroke language, written language, by using strokes rather than symbols and drawing them out as complete symbols. They started using the straight lines and stuff. You see that in your older cuneiform text and all that, with the little triangle shaped dabs into the clay tablets with different geometrical 90 and 60 or 180 degree angles. Whereas when we came into modern time and started getting creative with it, we got the curves in the B and the C and the D and the G and the P and the S and R and all that. We started adding more artistic strokes because it was easier done with a pen. Like you were saying, they couldn't carve those strokes into concrete quite so easy. So it's just the evolving of the communication languages. And I don't know what you're going to have to do to get this. I've got a 2-minute and 19-second video I'm going to run for everybody. So maybe you'll have to come back and watch it, or switch over to your YouTube channel, because it's showing up there and I hear sound and everything. So I'm going to run this 2-minute.
All right, I'll run over there. I'll come back.
All right, cool. And then I'll let you know when we're done as well.
It was showing up on StreamYard.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I'm out here mushroom hunting. And if you saw a couple posts back, I had some white flowers that I found. And I am in Auburn, Maine. And this is what I found today while I'm mushroom hunting. And if we look real close, you see those same kind of white flowers that are peeking up. They're going to peek up out of the ground here. And I'm going to pull some of this stuff up out of the way here, so real gently, so we can show you something else here. Oh, look at that. Yeah, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, first of all, let's notice all the white stuff on the ground. Notice all the white stuff on the ground. It's like a little spider web. It's some kind of fungus or something that's growing there, and it's spreading along in the moisture in the undergrowth here, the dead brush. And then if we look right there, we see there's some white mushrooms popping up out of there. And if you see that little brown thing, that's actually a little slug. And that slug is starting to feed on those mushrooms, that fungus there. And then as we peel this stuff back, we'll see those flowers a little bit better. Oh, over there. And right down in the middle of that, you see there's a bunch of little tiny stuff down there. We're going to see if we can get it to stabilize good enough so you can see it. It's like a little green dot, fuzzy dot in the bottom there right now. Yeah, I can't get it to focus on it, but that's really, really fine little fungus mushrooms coming up there. And then, as you can see, like I said, there's a bunch of, it's almost like cotton fiber. But those are called Indian pipes. They're all white flowers. Anyway, just wanted to show you. While I was out mushroom hunting, I got this one here I'm going to take back and dry it up. See what it does. Hopefully I'll be able to enjoy it. Meantime, God bless. Have a good day, guys. So, as I've said before, I got involved in this research and doing the law stuff about 7 years ago. And if you look at my Facebook, you'll see that I've been on Facebook a little bit longer than the 7 years. And the things that I posted before I got involved in all this law stuff was the outdoor stuff. And I just wanted to put this up there to help people comprehend. I found the best way to overcome that internal conflict, that internal slavery, is to get out there and be yourself in nature. And with that, I want to remind everybody, I did do a series of 4 videos, and I'll go ahead and, when I get done here, edit my YouTube channel so I can create a playlist for it. There's 4 videos I did: Jacob's Ladder, Living in the Spirit, David and Goliath, and The Key is in the Name. So I'll put a playlist together with those 4 videos so you can go through and watch those at your leisure. But I think it's important to comprehend that process of getting back to nature and realizing that that's the only way you can really get back to nature. Because if you're going to get back to nature, you have to be able to depend on your knowledge. And that's going to take research on your own. And that, like I showed in this last video, means you have to get out there and be involved. You can't just keep reading this stuff in books. You can't just keep reading the scripture. Faith without works is dead. And survival without that knowledge out there is dead as well. So when things hit this, shit hits the fan, and you end up having to go out to the nature again, many of you aren't going to survive. You need to start learning that stuff now. And I hope that's a good message for you that I brought tonight. Just like the world of law, I've always found that the truth is in the scriptures. By abiding at that immutable promise that he gave us, the same promise he shewed unto Abraham, that he would not forsake us again. All we have to do is ask. So with that, many people know that I've been on Facebook doing this research for 7 years. A lot of you don't know that I have a law group called Hotep Secondly. I'll post that in the comments and stuff. I'll redo the details part, so that's in there, along with MAN, MAN, in all caps, as an acronym for Man All Natural. Just another group to show that I have other interests in the law. And so I'm going to start getting back into that group and doing more nature things like I used to, including survival videos and stuff like that I'm going to start posting there. Along with that, a lot of these panels, like the boondocking panels, the self-sustaining societies and stuff, people that have those large acreages that want to develop these small innate communities that depend upon themselves and thrive. That's what I'm going to start working on next. You're always going to be welcome to come ask me for the law information. That's always going to be on the top of my head. It's always still going to be there, and it's always going to be researchable. So again, just like I tell people, don't believe your government. Don't believe me. Don't believe your neighbor. Don't believe your mother, for crying out loud. Learn how to do your research so you can see the information that people are putting it out. Look it up and find out for yourself. Discern for yourself what it means to you, and then you can move on it. But going around trying to say that you're investing in something when you really don't know what you're investing in and have nothing to invest in, playing with their play money, their battle of the forms, you're going to get yourself in trouble. And that's the main thing that system causes, is trouble for everybody. And they don't realize it. They think, it's too simple to just pay the $20 license fee. No, year after year after year, you're paying for stuff that you're not supposed to be. You're not qualified. So I do hope you pay attention to that. But in the meantime, I'm going to go back to my roots, my origins, because I'm not a slave to the society. And I'm going to show you how that part works out. So in the meantime, thanks again. I dropped the PayPal link in the comments for anybody that wants to help out with that. It will also be in the details link. Sorry about that, Joseph. I didn't know I had to add you back up.
You forgot about me.
Yeah, I thought you just went background. So, yeah, I appreciate everybody coming. And what do you got left, Joseph? You're muted still. You're muted still, brother.
Oh, sorry. At some point, I'd like to talk to you about, I think it was Isaiah the other night we were talking about the origins. I was talking about Carl Lentz and the root of common law itself being a layer of God's law. And you mentioned Isaiah. I'd be curious to follow the lineage from Isaiah to common law. If you might be able to take us on that journey. We don't have to do it right now, but
Well, it's real
I'm
quick
very
and
curious
simple.
about that.
Real quick and simple, because it again, like you said, and everybody else in the world will recognize it, that the law comes from the spirit of the law, which is the scriptures. Every nation bases their laws on their scriptures. Here in America, it wasn't legislated or made public law until 1984, when Reagan decided that it can't just be inferred. There's got to be some statement in there somewhere. And so he put it in the Constitution that the public law 97-280 claims that the scriptures of the 1611 version of the King James Version of the Bible is the common law of the land.
I'd be curious to see that one. I had no idea about that. The
Yeah,
existence of that.
Public Law 97-280 is known as the year of the Bible. You can just look it up by putting up the year of the Bible, and it'll show up that public law. And again, like I said, that wasn't done until 1984. And so what we look at in Isaiah 44 or 43:1, it tells us to fear not, for you have been redeemed. I have called thee by thy name. It says, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. So if I'm his, then we have to go by the common law of the land, which public law says 97-280 is the 1611 version of the King James Bible. So therefore, I am not yours. In 44:5 of Isaiah, it reaffirms that one shall say, I am the Lord's. One shall call himself by the name Jacob, and another shall subscribe unto the Lord by his hand with the surname of Israel.
Really interesting. I'll have to research that a little more and get back to you on it. But
yeah,
I'm very fascinated by that lineage.
Yeah, I urge everyone, if you don't read all of Isaiah, at least pull in books or chapters 40 through 48. Isaiah 40, chapters 40 through 48. I urge you to check those out. A lot of good information in there about identification and how to show that lineage and the value of doing that work. Otherwise, you can't be considered a child of Israel. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So again, I tell you, if you want true knowledge, you got to go back out there. The books of knowledge that you're finding in here, you're not going to find that true knowledge. You got to go back to the scriptures, and the scriptures will tell you that your prescription is Mother Nature. We're prescribed to follow the laws of nature in a chemical balance as an alchemical factory.
It comes to mind maybe a mother in the woods with her newborn child, free of distraction. None of this modern stuff that binds us, enslaves us technologically, or even before technologically. Just the bounds of society. Comes to mind a mother with her infant in the forest, and just being one with both her infant and with nature itself for some reason.
Yeah, and that's going to Isaiah 54. I talk about this. This is one of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible, period, as a chapter. Isaiah 54, 1 through 17, and it's a really short chapter. But what it is, it's a story about God and his forsaking mankind. And what we end up with now today is a bunch of barren women that are producing desolate children. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because they don't have any fathers preaching the word in their household. We got all these single mothers, bastard children, fathers that are fathering children to many women. Which is fine if you're doing it scripturally and you're bringing all those women into one house and training all those children under the word of God. But if you're not, then my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge of putting your word in one house, whether you've got one wife or four wives with multiple children. It's in one house. Today, all these single women are in multiple houses, and they're not getting the right house, the word of the right house in their home. It's sad. So Isaiah 54 tells us how God recognized that he forsake mankind when he flooded the earth. And so he renewed his promise in Isaiah 54, telling us that we're supposed to sing that promise. We're supposed to praise the glory of God and save the desolate children, help them learn that they have been redeemed as redeemers ourselves. Because it says that Leviticus 25, verses 23 through 25, that the land shall not be sold forever, for it is mine, and ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Verse 24 says, ye shall grant a redemption to all of the land in your possession. That tells us that as redeemed, we are now redeemers ourselves, saying the same thing, that we are gods, not in that same sense, but as that fleshly being, we can do a godly thing, which is redeem another man. We are redeemers.
And sojourners were just here for a short time, correct?
Correct.
Or here physically for a short time.
Ashes to ashes.
Correct. We were formed of the dust of the ground, and we will return to the dust of the ground. But as a form in an alchemical structure, creating an organic form which contains hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon, to allow for cell wall structure to contain the hydrogen and oxygen, which is the water of your body, we are an alchemical plant. That body, as an alchemical plant, produces nuclear fusion, nuclear reactions. We have constantly nuclear bombs going off inside of us. But the thing is that nuclear bomb is so small, we don't call it a bomb. We don't call it a bomb until the explosive energy gets so large that it can destroy something. Then it's a bomb or a bullet or something like that. But in the quantum sense, we're a nuclear fusion plant ourselves. We just have to learn how to generate that and direct it.
I was discussing your therapy for your lung therapy. The machine that you had used, what was it, the 3000 or something or other?
Yeah, the GB 4000. And it's
4000.
it's a Rife machine. It's not the true Rife machine, and I don't have all the other components that I can use with it to use it exactly like a Rife machine, but it puts out the same thing through the electric anodes or electric nodes that I attach to my body, and I just let them touch the skin. It's not like I have to insert them anywhere or anything. I could actually get some of those electrical pads that they used to do those monitoring at the hospital. And you just put a little sticky thing in there and then just clip it on. I can do it directly on the front and back, right through my heart.
So I was talking about that with a friend of mine, and I made a forum post on my own project as it relates, and was trying to bring his attention to that concept. He's an electrical engineer. He designs inverters for a living, or I don't know if he does it for a living, but it is one of his own projects. Very left mind type of guy, and he thought it was absurd because he was saying bullets or as you had said, explosions, those will rip right through you. So the energy that's involved in a bullet, or the analogy being radiation, is quite significant and destructive. And I was trying to assert, of course it is destructive if it is the wrong frequency. When you come to the correct frequency, it can perhaps be therapeutic, and you've demonstrated in your own endeavors that as it relates, that it can also be therapeutic. I can't hear you, bud.
You're muted, Keith.
That's like the scalar waves and stuff that we discussed in the video the other night. You know, everything is done on a frequency. And we find out that as an organic matter, we're not a solid state. We're constantly in vibration. Same with the rocks. They're in constant vibration of some sort. And when it comes to that vibration and certain various types of rocks, they actually go together and bond together with the carbon structure as non-organic material. It squeezes out the oxygen and hydrogen. So now it becomes a non-organic material out of what once used to be organic material. So we're just what happens is, as the dust of the ground is used as nutrients in bodies, we all eat spiders and all kinds of various amounts of dirt and particles with our food, and we're constantly at the end of our life, as we pass on, that energy goes back into the earth somehow. The bones and everything will eventually disintegrate.
When you mentioned that, the carbon and oxygen leaving it, when the two come together, is that where so-called petrified wood comes from?
Yeah. What happens there is that you have trees and they're full of sap. There's no air inside of them. Whereas as bodies, we have oxygen running through our veins and stuff. And so, and of course, we're different material. We will disintegrate in water, whereas wood will soften up. But eventually, as the water is removed from the tree and is covered by soil, the water has already pushed all of the oxygen out. So now it solidifies in the sediment, and then we uncover it later and it's petrified, literally a rock, because all the weight of the sediment on it made sure to push all other oxygen that might be in it out, so it could form the rock, the crystalline structure, or the solid crystalline structure. Because at all times, we're crystals. We're a crystal in action. We have what they tell us liquid crystals in the ears, but the body itself is actually in formation of crystals at all time. Your cell wall structure is just a more solid form of a liquid crystal.
If you could look at a time lapse of concrete over 100 or perhaps 1,000 years, it would look just like mud.
Yeah, it'll sit there, and that's because the vibration will sit there and let it slowly settle out. And you can actually, over time, you'll see how it'll change shape. You might even see some of them will have waves in them.
Yeah, when I did a tour in was it Florence, Italy? We would go up the tower of the steps. You know, thousands or millions of tourists going up the steps, and those solid stone steps would be beveled in from all the footsteps of people going up those spiral staircase.
Yeah, it's amazing the world we live in, and we're still finding new things all the time. Let me see here. We got some comments. Neil, please correct or add to comment towards Aaron DL where needed. Which comment? Oh, okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, the marriage license is bound in residency. You have to claim that you're a resident. You have to prove you're a resident of the state to get a marriage license, because you got to be married within the state in which you reside. And so they're claiming that you're already a resident of that state. And that's supposed to be a determination by necessity, not volunteer to get a license. So if you're not qualified to be a resident, which means that you have to be a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent, and it has to be deemed necessary, then you can't possibly qualify for residency. Therefore, no licensing can be required. See, if you have to be a federal, state, or municipal officer or agent, which requires an oath, then you have to take an oath first before you can get that license. That's what I explained with the motor vehicle driver's lease. They're telling you got to get have an oath of office before you can be required to make a statement that you intend to use it for trade or business for that licensing purpose.
At
That's the
least
only reason.
50% or more of the time.
Yep. Chris, my health is well. Thank you very much. Getting better and better, gaining energy and strength, not gaining a whole lot of weight yet, but I quit losing weight, and I've gained at least a couple pounds. So we're getting there. Still got plenty of Rick Simpson oil that I'm going to be dealing with. I got a stock full supply of vitamins and stuff that I'm now taking to help correct the diet, which is the actual reality of what cancer comes from. It's a cause and effect. Cancer itself is not a disease. It's an effect from not having a proper diet, not knowing how to breathe right, not knowing how to move right, things like that. That's all it is. Piezoelectric, yes. That's why they talk so much about being in harmony with the resonance of the earth. It's got a piezoelectric charge, and that's putting off a static energy, and that's what Tesla was all about. See, if you think about it, that piezoelectric energy, it doesn't stay within that vibration. The vibration is going to expand, just like they say that one atom on this side of the universe, as soon as it moves, it's touching all other atoms or particles in one way or another, so that as soon as it moves on this side, it's already moving on this side simultaneously. So it's a matter of perception and how we realize ourselves, and that's the same argument, believe it or not, with the flat earth and globe models. Well, without the globular structure of the cells themselves, as you can see, everybody draws them out in circles, but in the carbon structure, it's actually that tetrahedron. It's decahedron or tetrahedron, I think it is, and it's more of a globe shape than flat anywhere. You do have flat life beings, one-celled organisms. You see them as flat, but that's because they're liquid, and water itself will lay down too. Water itself is not always globular. Look at the snowflakes. Once it starts crystallizing due to temperature, it's changing shape. That's all it is. And that's why snowflakes have a color to them, because it didn't squeeze all the oxygen out. Whereas when you've got icicles, it's water dripping down and collecting and freezing, and it's still got the oxygen in it, and you can see clear through it. But the snowflakes, because it's coming down, it's separating on the molecular level, it's creating spaces, and that space there is allowing for reflection of that light within, casting a whiteness. Otherwise, it too would be clear. But because it's got great space in between it, more space than the water that you see dripping down off an icicle, it's changed shape. Whereas the icicle, it maintains its shape. It's not being blown apart by wind. And that's again, that resonant frequency bouncing back off a shape can create a effect. Instead of having it bounce off of a straight wall, we have auditoriums that are shaped like domes, and somebody can stand in the bottom of that back of that dome, and it can be cast out the entire hillside.
Feels the same effect as somebody almost front row.
Yep. And this is the way I posed that they did with in the time of Jesus on the Sermon on the Mount. If you take a look at the place where he did that sermon, supposedly it's got a concave structure, and of course he had his 12 disciples that would stand at a certain distance and be able to hear him relatively well. But the farther away, of course, it's going to get delineated in sound. So his disciples would stand at certain distances apart and just repeat that story. Pretty unique way of communicating.
I didn't know that. I was aware of Theater of the Round, similar concept, Shakespeare.
Yep. And that's basically what we're talking about, folks, is the size, mass, shape, everything has some kind of wave frequency to it. That something inside of it vibrates to. It's never going to be a deadline, as you see on those monitors. You're always going to have some kind of vibration, just not visible. It's so minute. It's like that piezoelectric. It's so minute. We can't see it or even touch it, taste it. We can't feel that difference. But you got to know it's there. And if you think on that quantum level and keep in tune with natural things that use the same things in life. I've seen animals get drunk, but they don't go out and make alcohol, do they? People found out how to get, or the consequences of being drunk from eating bad fruit, starving and needing something to live on, and they ate bad fruit. Over a period of time with that same conscious realization, why not just make a juice out of it? It's already juicy. So somebody just squeezed the juice out and drank it. Over time, we find out processes by observance. That too is a frequency. It's a light frequency by observing them visually. Again, like I said, with the snowflake and the icicle. Icicle is clear, but a snowflake is white. And we all see water is clear as well. So in its liquid form and solid form, both, it's clear. But somewhere in between, it catches color. Same thing with a icicle or snow, either one. Get a big old icicle and melt it down. See how clear it is. Grab a handful of snow, melt it down. And you'd think that once you melt that water down, it's going to be clear, but look how black it is. The snow was white, you never saw any black. And you expect it to be clear when you melt it, yet it's black. All kinds of strange things we need to start learning how to observe. And in nature, like I said with that last video, that carpet on the land, that little white web, it provides for everything in life. That's one of the life sources. It provides what plants need. Plants grow and provide us with the oxygen. We breathe in the oxygen and provide plants with the carbon dioxide they need. That little web of white fibers all over the planet is providing a sponge for nutrients so that they don't all get lost down trickling through the soil. It's like a sponge to hold some of them at the top, where roots of other plants and stuff will carry through and hold it there for a period of time. Walnut trees, that iodine that soaks into the soil soaks down so far through that little carpet into the soil that you don't have good soil for growing a lot of garden plants. So it's recommended that you don't plant your garden by a walnut tree. Plants don't like all that iodine. That's not one of their walnuts do, and they produce a lot of it. But don't use them as some kind of compost or anything for your garden, because it's going to destroy your fertilizer. This is all stuff that we've got to learn. And just like the language, tearing it down and learning how to rebuild it, or how it's built by tearing it down and finding that root word. It's all imperative. That mushroom you saw, I told you at the end I was going to go dry it out and try it. When you dry them out, powder it up, or even when it's fresh picked, don't touch it to your tongue. But when you touched it with your finger, then touch your finger to your tongue or your lips. And if you feel a change in your tongue or lips, you definitely want to monitor it. If you don't feel anything, then you can turn around, take a little piece, put it on your tongue. Don't swallow it, but just put it on your tongue and let it sit for a minute or two. See if there's any immediate reaction. Don't swallow it right away. Let it sit there for a while so you can tell if there's an extended reaction. You got to learn how to be your own pharmacist in this world of things that are given to us to heal thyself. It's not healthy. It's heal thy. Take it apart. Healthy is a false term. It's two root words that you can visually see. Take them apart. Heal thy. It's not hell. Healthy. That ought to tell you. Hell is the exact opposite of heal thyself. Very simple to me. Again, that's why I urge people to get back to that concise English. It'll tell you how they add on the prefixes and suffixes and what they do and how they change them from verbs to nouns, adjectives, all kinds of stuff. Really need to learn how to construct it so you can tear it back down to its original form, learn what each suffix and prefix means. Representative. 2 prefixes, 2 suffixes. What's the root word then? Sent. Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. Before thou was cast forth from the womb, before you were sent from the womb, before you were sent from the kiln.
Sentience.
Yep. So before you were discharged as a man of your mother's waters and took the first breath of life that God breathed through your nostrils, you then became a living soul. So why are they charging men? Ask them, do you see me as a man? They're going to stand there and tell you, yeah. And that should be what you should be able to use to tell them, well, I don't believe you believe in Scripture then, because if you did, you'd know Scripture. And Genesis 2:7 tells us that man became a living soul. If you want to stick around in your manhood, go ahead. But again, like I profess, we need to start looking at each other as a brotherhood and holding each other as accountables. How do we hold each other as accountable? By counting each other as our brothers, not dismissing each other and not including them in the count. I hope that makes sense, guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to double check with the chat real quick. And like I said, I really didn't plan on this being a real long one. But I do have to, again, remind everybody, I appreciate you showing up. Love it. 37 watching now, 47 likes. That's a great ratio. I love it.
Wiz, excuse me, did you get a chance to mail me the faith-based union information? I sent you the email back with the address.
Right. And I got it off. I don't know. You should have it within any day now.
Okay. I didn't check my mail today yet, but I will check it.
Right. Because I got it out on the weekend, but the place that I got it, which even has a postal substation, it's a local grocery store, so they don't pick up it. So it probably didn't get out till Monday.
I'll check for it.
All right. Thank you. And again, much appreciated, Jeff. Always appreciate it. Let's see. And like I said, I'm going to post the links to my Facebook and my other social media platforms, MeWe, Lawful Living. My PayPal link will be there in the details section. Once we're done here, I'll go back to the YouTube channel when it posts and edit the details section, put all that stuff in. Again, appreciate all the likes, shares, and subs. We are growing. I'm at almost 2.3 thousand subscribers now. So we are slowly growing, and that is what it's all about. As long as that happens for me, I'm being successful in what my attempt is, and that's to grow a community of my own acquaintances and friends and brotherhood of sharing truth and knowledge. We don't have to be fighting about truth, but sharing truth and expressing it for what it is, especially in modern times, where, as we see, a lot more people are going to the self-sustaining communities, boondocking like Joseph.
Yeah, I was going to say, you owe me that list of boondocks, because I've always been around water. I was a raft guide, commercial raft guide for several years. I just jive with the water people. There's not much known about the water people because the water washes everything downstream. And they're too busy having fun.
Yeah,
you know, being in the moment.
got houseboat communities on the coasts and stuff. You know, America, despite what you might think, the American landmass has more waterways than every other country in the world.
That's right. It's endless.
Yep.
And it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and it allows you to see so much more of the landmass of America, like say than any other country. You know, you go down to Brazil and there's not too many waterways, so your land crossings are extremely long, whereas your waterways create a great advantage to getting to so many different views that your landways won't show you. You know, you have to go a long way off land to see some of these isolated areas. The waterways go straight through some of those isolated areas where there are no roads.
If you look across a river, you'll see more land. If you look downstream, you're actually looking at the ocean.
Right.
You get into the ocean, and it brings up the engineering works that our early history and mid history of the United States endeavored in. I forget what it's called, but there's actually a I don't know if the canal is the right word, but there's a waterway that you can traverse pretty much all along the Gulf, pretty much all along the eastern shoreboard, and be completely safe from the ocean's turbulence. And that's the way that a lot of the transportation and the economy is run in this country. It's actually, people think it's the railroad or the highway. No, it's those waterways, which are a combination of we're already gifted with by God, by nature, and in addition to the marvelous engineering works which occurred, which have blessed us with a bounty of trade, not also including big old ones like the Mississippi.
Yeah, and like I said, the coastal waters at the mouth of the Mississippi down in the Louisiana area, there's houseboat communities. You know, so not only do we have self-sustaining societies on land, and these houseboat communities, they're converting to being self-sustainable on the water as well, with bucket gardens with hydroponics and stuff. And you just mount a pump right there directly with the river water. So, you know, great ideas coming out, and I think we need to really start learning how to expand on that. I think we all have remembered the movie Waterworld, and that concept
That came to mind.
Yeah, one day we might all end up living on water. I don't think in that kind of a scenario, but at the same time, it's a good idea to think about some of the concepts they put out there about make sure you have plastic sheets that you can put up in trees and stuff and catch all kinds of dew, or have some kind of shaker that you can go out in the morning and lay a sheet down and shake all the fruit and dew off, and then gather up all the fruit and the dew as well, or let it shake straight to the ground. You know, a lot of these regions that I talk about, the watersheds, start developing watersheds by having water collection systems where you can start irrigating the ground without any plants yet. Get that water to start soaking in, and you can start bringing in some outside soil, some good black dirt. Start introducing the proper nutrients from compost piles and stuff. There's a 30 years, a couple did like 300 acres of barren land and brought it to a fertile, very fertile perennial garden.
Best soil there is. Just dredge some soil from under the water, and like we were talking about before, our own bodies even being recomposed into the soil. The very best place to find that source elemental stuff is at the bottom of a river or the lake, pond, lake. That doesn't really matter. That stuff is, if you pull that out from the water and plant your stuff in it, you're going to grow the biggest tomatoes on the block.
Yeah, and I discussed that in a Victor Schauerberger video about the positiveness of water. Water creates its own positive energy through vortical currents. And this is why it's so important to let the rivers run their natural course. Because when you straighten a river out and don't allow it to have that bend that it's supposed to have in nature, it lessens the vortical currents that it creates to dig up the nutrients out of the bank. And you will see that a river will constantly change its course. And what it's doing is it's digging up all those nutrients out of the fresh soil at its banks, bringing it into the river to disperse it otherwise. And without that, when you create a river that's straight, it can't tear up its banks. It's not carrying the nutrients. This is the same thing with the soil that we see today. Isn't quite as nutrified as it's supposed to be, because the only thing that they return to it is the nitrates. They're not returning all the other valid and vital nutrients to the soil. So if you wanted to plant something else that needed a vital mineral that's supposed to be in the soil and you don't provide it, you might have a hard time growing it, because they're destroying the soil with their crop maintenance and herbicides, and only putting the nitrates back in.
They're inviting a new dust bowl.
Also, yes.
They're not rotating the crops, I might add.
Correct. Even the scripture tells us to allow the motherland to heal.
7 years, wasn't it?
Yep. Let it grow wild every 7 years.
6-1.
Yeah. Every 7th year, you're supposed to let it grow wild and not harvest. Just go out and collect what you need. People harvest for 6 years, collecting what they need and a store. Then on the 7th year, they're not supposed to collect anything. Just take what they need from that year's fresh harvest if they're out of stores. But if they're not out of stores, then they're supposed to finish up their stores and leave it to the nature. And even when they harvest, they're not supposed to harvest 100%. They're supposed to leave 10%. Today, you don't see that. You see them harvesting the entire field with genetically modified seeds, and they're not diligently replenishing the earth, as the scripture says. Corporations do not care about that. And it's sad. That's why I think our education system is what's screwing us naturally. We're not able to teach not our children, not just spiritually, but naturally. The natural course of life. That part has nothing to do with spirituality. It has to do with the natural course of being able to return those nutrients to the soil, which we see that the corporations obviously have no interest in. Yet they want to talk about climate change. They're the biggest effect on it. And that climate change is directly affecting our food chain because they are doing it. They know what they're doing. Inherently important as well. Everybody start doing their own gardening.
And they're doing it by design, unfortunately.
Yes.
Against us.
All right. I'm going to go to chat. I'm going to go to chat and catch up on chat. Go ahead real quick, but then we're going to cut it because I want to go get with my companion and take a nap and relax for the night.
And yet they're still buying those oceanfront properties. So there's something that doesn't jive there. Some of the smartest people in the world go into finance, and they'll purchase those oceanfront properties. Not to take away from the phenomena that's occurring with the corporatization of the earth. That certainly is having an impact on not only the earth's health, but our own health. But
exactly.
Sorry, go ahead with the chat.
No, exactly. That's exactly why I say we're supposed to be stewards of the earth, and yet my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. So even if you take the spirituality out and don't teach them the scripture, but completely observe from nature and learn from nature, you'd still get the same message that the scripture's giving you, and that there are certain ways you should be treating the land. Over a long time evaluation, people should be able to realize, hey, I'm destroying the land. My plants aren't growing like they used to. Something's wrong. What am I doing wrong? But they don't. They don't want to see themselves as doing wrong.
Same thing for livestock. I had some goats, and those goats they're really good for the earth. They'd hoof the earth, and they would defecate and urinate all over the place, and it would really help the plants. But if a little too much of that, and all the foliage right nearby the barn just got torn up, just dirt, just turns into dirt.
Yeah, and somebody else just mentioned in the chat, plants, like I mentioned with walnut trees, You don't want to plant your gardens around walnut trees. Okay, the soil is too acidic with the iodine that most plants won't grow around them. So because they have to dig down into those lower levels of soil where most of the iodine is. Today we have recognized the symbiosis of certain plants that prosper even better around other plants of certain natures. So when you put a certain type of plant that does well on its own with another plant that does well on its own, and you put them together, you see that they thrive twice as much. Those are the kind of crop
Crop
plant.
rotation.
What?
In league with crop rotation.
Right. And it's a matter of letting the environment enhance itself while we observe and help incorporate that enhancement, not destroy it. So that when we find desert areas, we can go ahead and start extending those watersheds from the mountains, finding the springs, digging or barricading up certain areas that are concave and can create a lake, and giving it an overflow or something. So water shedding is a great thing that we could do in the American desert lands, and I think people should be picking up on that. Greetings, Yogi. Always good to have a good soul mind on the panel. What's going on, brother?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep, we've got you loud and clear, brother.
Doesn't look like my camera's working. Can you hear me? All right. My sister raises
I
rabbits,
hear you.
and she harvests the manure. And I just want to say that my grandfather used to do this too. You have to collect the manure, set it off to the side, and let it cool, because of the urine in the manure. It has to cool off.
Yeah, you've got to let the uric acid leach out of it
before it's. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my grandfather used to mix it with all the yard clippings and make a tea out of it for the plants. But it has to be separated from the plants for a while. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. That's something else with your compost piles as well. It's like a fermentation period. You've got a process time for certain things to reach maturity to the level that you want them. And this is the thing about the tree of knowledge. We're not supposed to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge because it's still on the tree. It's not ripe yet. You're supposed to wait until it falls free from the tree. And that's the perfect ripeness, supposedly. So that's the lesson in the tree of knowledge, is that we're supposed to wait until it's ready to give up. It's called the doctrine of ripeness in the legal world. In the scriptural world, the doctrine of ripeness, obversely from the tenements of 7 years and letting the land rest, is you're supposed to let it ripen first before you harvest.
Don't take more than you need.
Exactly. And that's again, that's what the modern farming 70s is when the industrial farming took over the family farm. We have very few of them left yet, and again, like you said, they don't crop rotate. The family farmers knew that, they understood that, and they incorporated in their livelihood. They knew they couldn't sell a good product if they didn't do the crop rotation. Well, then came in the genetic modifications and everything in industrial farming, and they took over everything. They wiped out the family farmer that was educating the local communities and destroyed the farmers markets. Today's farmers markets are indoctrinated into this sales platform that they're not even doing so much the farmers products anymore. They're doing outside products. I mean, go to some of these farmers markets nowadays, and they've got their farmers market section, but they've got people that are in there selling products, which is fine. That's a market type thing for the private man, which is what farmers markets are actually about. It's a reversion back to the early times when the people could go into the market square, which was the temple area for the worshipers, but then on worship time they're supposed to be out. It was a space where they could gather with the local faithful people and show their wares so that the local faithful people could buy their products. That back then they didn't have grocery stores. They didn't have markets like that. So if you wanted to sell a tapestry or something, if you lived out in the urbans, you could bring it into the local settlement, into the market square every day of the week, except for worship time. Well, they started taking over and not leaving, and that's when Jesus went in and flipped the tables. No, you're not going to do it anymore. Sacred time for worshiping is in the temple, and that's what the temple's purpose is. You want to sell your wares, go make a new square. So that's what they did. Now they've got a market square. They don't have a spiritual square anymore. Now they go to church. It's a building. Needful place in building to let the slaves worship for their gods. Put up big neon sight to direct them to it. Funny shit. So anyway, one last time, I will put all the links in the details section after I'm done. The PayPal link will be there. All is appreciated. 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks. Everything helps. Every little bit. Like I said, I've been doing this for 7 years on the law end. I'm going to change my platform up a little bit. Like I said, I'm going to do the reviews on Sunday nights with Jeff. He's going to help co-host that. And then these other streams that I want to do through the week, I want to do on various different topics. And those are going to be my more general topics that are original to me. My Tom Sawyer thing, born on the mighty Mississippi, and you can take the mighty Mississippi out of the boy, or you can take the boy out of the mighty Mississippi, but you can't take the mighty Mississippi out of the boy. It's always going to be there. So hopefully you'll be seeing some new survival videos showing you various different survival techniques, fishing techniques, different areas to go mushroom hunting, what kind of mushrooms you find, what time of the year. People always know about the morels, but there's so many more mushrooms you can use in your diet.
I have morels in my yard.
And they're good stuff, Like I said, that's getting more down to the fungus roots of the plant base. So it's going to give you different kinds of vitamins and stuff in a different form that your body's going to absorb chemically. Like I said, we're chemical factories, and we're taking chemicals that people call poison. It's only poison if it kills you. Then it's found to be, that was poisonous. No, it's called greed and gluttony. You just ate too much. You can poison yourself with water. So just a matter of learning how to heal thyself and being your own doctor. Doctor, by the way, is Teacher Hill. Sermon on the Mount. So, all right. I hope I gave you enough scripture and enough of the reality of what this language and everything is doing and how to get out of her. Is by getting back to your origins in nature, learning about Mother Nature so you can get back to your Father in heaven. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Again, God bless. I love you all, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks, guys.
Nice to meet you, Jeffrey and Yogi. And thank you, Wizard, for having us.
Anytime.
Stan,
You're
nice to
always
meet
welcome.
you.
Appreciate you.
You bet. Rest well, guys. All right. Again, God bless everybody. I don't know how often I'm going to do it. I'm not going to schedule them. I want to be a spur of the moment stuff and show people that I don't have this organized life and that I do other things besides just research law. Time to show Keith again. Anything else? Last words there, Jeffrey? All right. God bless everybody. I'm out.